We'll open up this PDF. You guys all got a copy of the PDF drawing that I gave you guys via email. You guys got that in PDF or JPEG? PDF, right? Okay. Well, I have a slightly different version of Bluebeam on here than you guys have. You guys have the newest. So I'm just going to get rid of some of these markups that I gave a architect, so it's a blank drawing that I gave you guys. Right? SketchUp, I don't believe can import PDF files, so we have to make this into an image file, which is pretty simple if you have Bluebeam or if you have Adobe Pro. I'm just going to save as, and under save as here, you can quite literally just save it as a I'm going to save it as a JPEG on my desktop so I can find it quickly. I'm just going to save. Oop. Does not like that projector, does it?
What are we saving that?
I just saved it as its name, but I put it on the desktop.
But you said
Oh,
PDF, right?
yeah, I saved it as a JPEG,
I'm not able to select it as a JPEG.
which is a picture. Are you guys in? Oh yeah, you got to open it. You got to save it first, then open the PDF in Bluebeam, and then from Bluebeam you can save it as a JPEG.
You can do it in Adobe too.
Or Adobe Pro. You can do it in Adobe Pro also. I don't have Pro on the laptop, so I have to use Bluebeam. I think these computers have both. So I have that as a handy JPEG now. I'm going to minimize that. Where did I put SketchUp? So then I'm going to load SketchUp. You guys might have to go through and it'll say, continuous trial or something like that because you... Yeah, that's Pro, but you still have what's called... So how that works is you have a 30-day trial, but then it goes to SketchUp Make. And SketchUp Make should work for this today, if that's what you have. So in SketchUp, what I like to do is under View Toolbars, I add a couple of toolbars. I add the large tool set. I add a location, views, warehouse, and that's usually enough for what I need to draw, or more than enough for what I need to draw. I think this little person just is to orient yourself on the page, as far as upright and what you're looking at. I delete them, don't need them. And then my views toolbar, which normally fits, but when I plug my computer into the projector, it makes my screen narrower. I'm going to select top view, right? Top view. Maybe I'll move that a little bit. Whatever, top view. Then I can go to File and Import. So when you import, you have a bunch of different file formats that SketchUp can import from. It can take 3ds files, it can take DWG files, it can take Photoshop documents. It can take quite a few files that you can communicate back and forth between various CAD programs in here, but it can take PDFs for some reason. So we're going to find some JPEGs, and I'm going to find my Brunswick Site Logistics Plan here. I'm going to click Import. You guys can watch, and I'll go through it with you after. Yeah, I'll go through it with you guys again. So I imported my site plan. I click this button here, just basically zooms extents. If you guys remember from AutoCAD what that meant, maybe I can actually even move this. This doesn't really matter. It's smaller. I don't know if it'll be clearer. Zoom extents basically means the drawing fills the page. There's a button up here next to the magnifying glass. There's orbit, pan, zoom, and then zoom extents. And then I'm going to zoom in, and you need kind of a frame of reference. So in our case here, right, we have a frame of reference being these parking spaces. I'm going to click that, right? We know the parking space is not a ½ inch, right? So if I measure that distance, right, and then I type the actual distance, how big is the parking space? Yeah, 9 by 18 roughly. So I'm just going to type 18 feet, and I'm going to say, yes, I want to resize the model, and you can see it resizes the model. I resume extents. So now when I go in here and I measure a parking space, I get, see that? 9 feet roughly by 18 feet roughly. It'll be close. You can get real particular with this, but this will put us in the ballpark. So our goal with this is, now that we have our site plan in here, is to make a logistics plan. There's a couple things going on. I think I told you guys about last class. Pan here. There's a courtyard here that we are infilling with an addition. There's this hallway corridor. There's a sidewalk running here. This bump out is a loading dock. There's a loading dock right here in this building. And then over here is where they pump the septic tank out. And then this building here is buildings and grounds storage shed, which we can't impede on their access to the storage shed. So we're going to build ourselves a 3D logistics plan. So let's say we're going in for an interview and we want to tell the school how we're going to handle flow on the site and keep everything moving, keep everything happy, right? So I'm going to take my line tool here, and I'm just going to roughly, again, you don't need to be super precise here. Oh, come on. And if you you may need to hold down the control button. You may need to hold down control to get your angles to work properly, may or may not. And what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to make a closed geometry of the building. Closed geometry of the building here. Again, it's a little different of commands than you might be used to from Oasis or AutoCAD. So you may struggle a little bit at first getting this to draw in the manner that you are expecting it to draw. Once you get the hang of it, it is not that awful terrible of a software. Okay. So again, just a rough geometry of the building. There are some parts of it that are 2-story, some parts that are single-story. But once you have that, I'm going to actually flip this into a isometric view here. I'm going to pick a different tool here called push-pull. And I'm going to extrude this, and I'm just going to say that the building is 20 feet tall. So I pull it to extrude it a little bit. I type 20 feet, and it's going to show up down here in distance. It'll show up where it says 0 inches right now. If I extrude this and I say 20 feet, so now I have an outline of the school. Back to top view. Pan this over here. I'm going to do the same thing just to give some shape to this buildings and grounds shed that they have here, their storage shed. Again, just make my closed geometry, take my extrude tool, and I'm just going to say that that's this one here, maybe a little shorter. Maybe this one's 15 feet tall, right? And then if I were to orbit this, you'd start to see the shape develop. Is that making sense so far? So you guys are you'll extrude this middle high school also just to give some shapes. If you're looking at this in a perspective, you get the feeling for it. We're not going to render these buildings and put doors and windows and all sorts of things on them. Just massing models, just these shapes. And the reason for that is we want to be able to get a feel for the site in terms of where we can do certain things. So we're gonna have some work going on in this courtyard. One thing you may want to do is, if you draw the geometry of the courtyards before the exterior of the building, they could be a separate geometry, so when you extrude it, it doesn't fill those in accidentally on you. But we're going to have a lot going on in the site. So we're going to give them some material laydown somewhere out here, equipment storage. We need to keep access to these loading docks. Both of those loading docks need access to them. When we're building this addition, we're going to have to pick stuff and put it into this building over here, into that courtyard. So we're going to need to show some equipment. All right, let me